Flash floods in Texas have put a focus on both the risk of flash flooding as well on how to predict or prevent it. Joining me now is Ryan Ness, Research Director with the Adaptation at the Canadian Climate Institute. Good morning. Thanks so much for being with us. I want to get your thoughts on the devastation in Texas. How concerned are you about being prepared for flash flooding here?
I mean, obviously, the situation in Texas is a catastrophe, and our hearts go out to the people and the families that have been affected first and foremost. But it does certainly point out the danger of climate-driven disasters like extreme floods. And we know that climate change is only going to increase the frequency and intensity of these kinds of events in many parts of Canada moving forward. So it again does flag that we need to understand that this kind of risk exists in many places across the country, and we need to be prepared for it.
Where are the most high-risk areas in Canada?
And floods occur at different speeds all across the country, depending on the geography. Some of the areas most prone to flash floods are mountain areas where there's very little soil and the water runs off the steep rock very, very quickly, accumulates in streams and moves very fast, sometimes carrying mud and debris with it, especially when it's in areas that have burned because of the more frequent wildfires. Other areas are susceptible to flash flooding are urban landscapes. Southern Ontario, the region of Montreal, for example, where there's a lot of paved surfaces where, again, the water just flashes off, overwhelms drainage systems and storm sewers, builds up on roads, and floods basements.
How can we prepare infrastructure to mitigate the risk of flooding?
So we need to understand where our infrastructure can and can't handle these kinds of events. And that starts with flood modeling and flood mapping how high flooding would be in different places, whether or not it can pass through drainage systems, culverts, bridges, what would be flooded, how many houses, how many buildings would be impacted and damaged. So to know that information is the first step to be able to focus on when to prioritize. Then it's about focusing in on the areas where there is the most risk and where the infrastructure is most under capacity to make sure that the investments we make are delivering the most that they can in terms of reducing risk.
And how accurately can we predict this type of flash flooding?
The shorter the flood time frame, the harder it is to predict, but it is possible. Regions like Toronto, the Greater Toronto area, right, for example, work with conservation authorities to constantly monitor weather forecasts and try to predict when their flashy floods may happen. So it's all about resources, ultimately, whether or not there's the expertise and the funds to support that kind of monitoring exercise, and then the warning systems to communicate that information out to the public so that they can actually get themselves out of harm's way before it's too late.
Ryan Ness, Research Director at the Canadian Climate Institute, thanks so much for your time and your thoughts this morning.